Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Deming, and this is the Born to Heal podcast, where we share practical tools and knowledge to help you create conditions for true healing in your life. Let's welcome back to the show, Christie Miller, the conscious change maker. Welcome,
Thanks,
Christie.
Katie. It's so great to be back with you again. This is number 3, I think.
Yep, it is. I love it. So today we're talking about, I feel like obviously the topics we've talked about before are serious. Cancer is serious. But today, we're talking about a different side of cancer and what it's like to lose a loved one to cancer. And Christie, you've always said cancer is a gift. I'm wondering if today, as we're talking about the loss of your husband, who recently transitioned after cancer, if you can still say that.
I can. And even with tears in my eyes. Mark was diagnosed about a year ago, and the year that we had together was the most magical year. And I've been saying cancer is a gift since 2 days after my diagnosis of breast cancer back in June of 2022. So 3 years since then, I've been saying it the whole time. I've been saying cancer is a gift, even though my mom passed away from cancer. Mark's identical twin passed from cancer. Mark just transitioned due to cancer. And everything in this lifetime happens for us. Now, we don't have to like it. But when we embrace the fact that everything is happening for us in life, that's when we can open up our hearts and minds to do the excavating, to find out why was this for me and what is the gift inside. And I can say unequivocally that cancer has been the greatest gift in my life, even though Mark just transitioned 7 weeks ago.
Wow. I think that just wow, how you can be so fresh in the grief and, working through. I know, just because you and I, not only are you a client and a colleague, but a friend, seeing you go through this, to be able to say that at this point to me is remarkable. And, what do you think about this experience with cancer and Mark? And where's the gift in that for you?
Oh, so many. Number one, I feel like I've gotten a doctorate in spirituality in 9 weeks. I mean, he basically went almost 10 months with no symptoms and, had basically a 2-week period where there were symptoms. And so I take those 2 weeks plus the 7 since he transitioned. And I feel like I have grown incrementally, probably earned a doctorate's degree in spirituality, and just my connection with God, universe, spirit, my connection with self, my connection with Mother Earth, me seeing signs, so many signs that just not only show, but prove that his transition was perfectly on time, divinely orchestrated. Just everything was aligned to happen the way that it was meant to be. And even if we go back before his diagnosis, the changes in me as a human being since the diagnosis I received in June of 2022, I'm a completely different person. The way I look at life, the way I approach life. And I shudder to think who I would be without all these experiences. I would not be having as big an impact on the world as I'm meant to be. And I'm still nowhere close to the impact I'm supposed to have, but I'm making baby steps that sometimes feel like huge leaps.
I think, I personally am in awe of you in the way that you've processed through this experience. You know, I was with you on the day that Mark passed, which I think was a gift that I was able to be there in California with you and have witnessed this literally from that first day. And the one thing that I can say about you is that you don't bypass. There's no spiritual bypassing of the experience. You're having the raw feelings, the roller coaster of grief. You're experiencing all of that, but then taking away these beautiful lessons that I think, you know, many people are just so overcome by the grief. They can't get there. And honestly, I think that it's fine, right? Everyone's path of dealing with grief is different, but what makes you different? Like, why is it when I watch you, I'm literally struck by how is she doing that? Like, I know that I have a lot of tools and I have a lot of, you know, lessons that I've experienced, but I don't think that I could be processing this type of loss in the way that you have and been so public in the way that you're sharing the experience of grief. It's beautiful. And I think actually I just want to call this out. If people want to follow you on social media, tell us, what is the handle?
At Coach Christie Miller on Instagram.
Okay, at Coach Christie Miller. So on your Instagram, literally from the beginning. So I don't even know if you started on that first day or what, but it was literally within days of Mark passing. You were sharing in your stories what this was like and the roller coaster and the signs and what signs you guys had agreed upon. And I'm just wondering what prompted that and how have you been able to do that?
Yeah, what prompted that? I truly believe that there is purpose in every pain. And if I don't share this experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, not that there's anything ugly, but, you know, the tears that you'll see here, and we'll probably be laughing at some point here also. I feel like if I don't share that in a 100% authentic and vulnerable way, then the pain is for nothing. Because I don't know the reason yet why this happened for me. I have some theories and more coming to me as I sit in the silence, as I walk on the beach. But I don't have all the reasons why this happened for me. But I know that one of them is to make my voice louder and really have an impact on the conscious change, the mindset that's necessary for all of us to just step into our future self, step into the role that we chose to reincarnate onto this planet and fill. And so because of that, you know, whenever I felt the hit to do it, I'm not forcing myself to do it, I would just grab my phone and record a story. And sometimes it was tears on the beach. Other times it was, oh my gosh, this is a roller coaster. And I'm going, wee, because I'm so darn happy right now. And I just feel like it's my soul's, I don't want to use the word obligation, maybe calling, my soul's calling to talk about this and show this. And I just know Mark is so proud, so proud. And I've been training my whole life for this. I was born addicted to drugs and not expected to live. So I have that strength within, and I have that childlike curiosity of, okay, this is really hard, but what's the easier path? Or how do I get through? How do I get over this wall? How do I crawl through this tunnel? And for me, my antidote to grief is gratitude. When we combine grief with gratitude, it just softens it. And I remember speaking at Mark's celebration at life, and I said, grief is the tax we pay on love. And as I looked around at the 200 plus people that were there on a beautiful evening, I said, I see all of us collectively are paying a really big tax. And that means we are the lucky ones because we got to love and be loved by the Mark Man. And so, just living in the gratitude, and whether we're combining gratitude with a negative emotion, a sad emotion like grief, it softens it. And if we combine gratitude with a positive emotion like joy or peace or happiness, it completely amplifies it. And I think that's a piece of gratitude that people don't understand, or they don't want to believe it. Because if I wasn't sprinkling gratitude into this grief journey, I would just be curled up in the corner, crying and being in complete victim mode, which is not my personality. That's not my MO.
I've discovered one tool that's completely transformed how my clients heal, resetting their metabolism, activating the body's natural healing, and giving them incredible mental clarity. That tool is water fasting, and you can access my free workshop all about fasting as a healing modality right now. I cover how fasting actually works in your body, the different types of fasts, and how to know which approach is right for you. And most importantly, how to do it safely. Whether you're navigating health challenges, have tried fasting before, or are completely new to it, this workshop is for you. I'll share real success stories from my practice and give you the framework I use with my clients. You can watch it now by accessing the link in this episode's description. This workshop could change how you think about healing entirely. For sure, that is not you. That is absolutely the antithesis of Christie Miller. Mm-hmm. And I've heard you say that grief is the tax that we pay for loving big and loving hard and having such a beautiful love. And, I think it would be amazing for you to share just a little bit about the love and the life that you and Mark shared together, just to honor that, because I think most people dream of finding a relationship like you guys had.
Yeah. Okay. Now you're going to get the tears, full-blown tears. So Mark and I, according to some spiritual experts, have been together in many lifetimes. And we met on a blind date that lasted 72 hours. Sorry, Dad. And I knew when I got home that I was going to marry him. I just absolutely knew. And from the day we met, for the most part, our relationship was easy. And when he proposed 9 months later, I said yes. And there was a caveat, but I get to die first. And what 22-year-old girl says I get to die first? And what I found out later from a woman who did a past life regression, she had told me that one of our lifetimes, 143 years prior, Mark and I were best friends and we were in a war and he died in my arms. And I was like, oh my gosh, that explains everything. Because I had no idea why I would say something like that. And so we were married 36 years. We were together 37 years, 9 months, and 19 days. It'll be our 38th anniversary on September 4th of this year of the blind date. And it was just magical. We were best friends. We were goofy. We were fun. We were serious. We supported each other through everything. It's not that we didn't have any downtimes. We had some downtimes. We've gone through financial issues. We've gone through just different issues within the marriage, but it was always, nobody was looking for a back door. It was always, okay, like, now what? What are we going to learn from this? How are we going to grow even stronger and be more connected? And even he had cancer at 9 years ago. He had testicular cancer at the same time his identical twin, Mikey, was dying of cancer. And it's just, we became, again, an even tighter team, a tighter force. And I thought, this was back in 2016, I thought he got cancer then as some sort of sympathy identical twin cancer, which there is theories, and that is a thing. But then when I was diagnosed 6 or 7 years later, I looked at it as, no, he got cancer so he could understand what I'm going through. And when I got diagnosed, I said to him, we need to rip up that contract that says I get to die first.
because I didn't want him to go through the pain of losing me because he'd already lost his identical twin. Now, universe, I know you're listening. I didn't mean let him die first in 3 years. I meant like when we're 90. I need to be more careful in what I say. But I couldn't fathom him going through the pain of losing his other half. He already lost Mikey, and I couldn't see him losing me. And I'm so thankful that this is the order that it happened in, because I would never want him to experience this. This is hard AF. And it breaks my heart to think if he was the one sitting here speaking with you right now, you would have your hands full, Katie. I don't know what you would do.
Well, I remember as Mark was, transitioning, and, this is one of the things that I don't talk about very much, but I have gifts around that and connected with Mark as he was making his transition. And he said, I don't do anything without Christie. I don't go anywhere without her. I don't do anything. You were his touchstone. And I know, of course, he would figure it out and he would make it through. But the order of things, obviously everything happens exactly the way that it's meant to. And that, and also I love that you see, okay, there's a reason that you were the one who's left, and that this is all happening for a purpose that you may not understand today. And it doesn't make it less painful, but it gives you purpose. And I think I've heard you say so many times, Christie coaches my fasters, so my prolonged water fasters who are fasting up to 30 days, Christie coaches them. And she always says there's pain or there's purpose in my pain. Can you speak to that? Like, how do you see that?
I believe that we can learn as humans from one of two ways. We can learn through pain and we can learn through insights. There is always, because everything happens for us, there is always a purpose in the pain. And if we can step back and actually really analyze, what was this event that happened? How did it happen for me? Why was my soul supposed to go through this? What is the opportunity for growth? Again, never spiritually bypassing the emotions. I mean, I've got tears bouncing off my cheeks as we film this. But when we can look at that, the purpose will be revealed. Like whether it was a purpose just for the individual or for the collective as a whole. And for me, I know one of the purposes in this now happening is for me to get louder, for me to just step up and speak more and be on stages and be on more podcasts and really help people get through the hard times, because we can all create a life so good it feels like magic. But the first step in that is believing that we deserve that and believing that it's possible. And I think it was yesterday, or the day before, I was sitting in the silence and talking to God, universe, spirit. And I said, okay, I know we learn through pain or we learn through insight. And I would just like to put a permanent lifetime order out there that I would like the rest of my learning to come through insight. I'm done with the pain. I've had enough. Can I just have the slightly easier route and let's just excavate all the insight that has been in the pain?
What tips would you have for people who are going through something like this to find the gift, to find the gratitude, to, I can imagine that there'll be people who listen to this who, I can think of one of my clients who just lost her mom. And I know that, she will be looking for words of wisdom of, how do you do this in a different way than we've been taught, right? Grief. And not that there's anything wrong with actually the sadness and the process that people go through. Everyone is different, right? Grief is going to look different for everyone. But I'm wondering if you have any words for someone who is going through grief right now and really lost in it.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned as a 26-year-old when I lost my mom to cancer was I looked at the way that she went through her journey with cancer. And we did not have a good relationship, but we got close because she was on her journey for about 18 months. And the doctors had told her she had like 3 months. And she went 18 with pretty good quality of life for the most part. And I just remember obviously being sad, 26 years old to lose a parent. That just seems so early. But I remember sitting down one day and just thinking, I'm so proud of her. Like the way that she was a Spaniard Catholic, like she was so religious, and just the way that she connected with God and everything, like she was so brave. And so in the grief, I was looking, even not knowing, I was not a mindset coach at the time. I was a financial analyst, the complete opposite of what I do now. And I remember just sitting there and just thinking, like, what have I learned over the last 18 months from my mom? What am I thankful for? And just, if she hadn't had cancer, if she had just gotten in a car accident or had a heart attack or something, just died instantaneously, we wouldn't have had that time to repair a relationship. I wouldn't have had that experience of seeing her strength and all of that. I wouldn't have had the time to really just keep thanking her for adopting me as a baby and all of that. So I think the first tip is to really just kind of step back and look at the situation and ask yourself, what have I learned or how have I grown in this situation? Because it's so hard. I'm never going to say that grief is easy. It's hard AF. But there are gifts there. And even for me, I'm recording these stories and I post them and I'm getting DMs and emails from people just saying how inspiring it is. And, I'm posting me walking on the beach crying and I don't see how that's inspiring, but I'm then being so grateful for what has happened, that Mark has passed, that I'm able to somehow touch people that I don't even know. Strangers on the internet that are suddenly following me. So again, kind of a long answer to the first tip is look at what you learned in the process, look at who you're becoming, how you're growing. And of course, you would much rather not grow and have your loved one by your side. I would give everything, all of my growth, everything back to have Mark here and Katie, have you and I recording a podcast on our cancer healing journeys instead of this. I would much rather do that. And without that, there'd be no growth. There'd be no grief. There'd be no growth. There'd be no additional generosity. There's only been one time in 7 months or 7 weeks when I've actually said, thank God Mark can't see this. And it was when I opened my credit card bill yesterday. I was like, oh, thank God Mark is not here to see this. Because there might have been a little retail therapy going on lately, a whole lot of retail therapy. But again, it's see how quickly we just moved into the laughter. It's letting all of the emotions flow as they come and not fighting any of them. And knowing that grief is not one size fits all. I've started and stopped reading probably 4 books on grief. And when they're telling me that if I skip a stage, it's not right, I'm like, that book's out of here. Like I was reading a book that anger is an important stage. You must go through it. And honestly, I'm not angry about a thing. I'm just not. And that's not spiritual bypass. It's just not my nature, because we've been given all the signs about how divinely orchestrated this was. And we can talk about some of the signs if you want, that if this was our soul's contract, which I believe it was, although I want to know why 2 crazy kids decided to sign a soul contract to have stage 4 cancer at the same time and then have one of them die. I don't know. I don't know what we were thinking when we wrote that soul contract, but it'll be revealed later. But I believe we have soul contracts. I believe we have a set expiration date. And with all of that, how can I be mad? I have absolutely nothing to be angry about. I'm not second guessing our medical choices, the ones we did and didn't do. I'm just so at peace that Mark went out his way. And he was lucky. He went quickly. And I heard something on a podcast last week. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm just repeating it, but it said that a lot of times for souls that go quickly, they didn't need the additional lessons in a prolonged hard death. And he went peacefully and he went quickly. And I'm so grateful for that.
Your perspective is beautiful. And also, I love one of the things that I heard in there about when you said, the books, and they say, if you skip this step, then you're doing it wrong. It's like what you're showing is that there is no one way to grieve, and that you get to choose how you work through it, and everyone's going to work through it in their own way. And I love the statement about, what have I learned through this? Like, what can I take? And this is one of the things that Don always says, that he doesn't use anything from his past, right? And now Mark's passing is in the past, right? Because that doesn't exist. That is in the past. And he says, whatever has happened in my past, I use it for my benefit in the present moment. And that's exactly what you're doing, is taking something that many people pull forward all the pain, right? And in some ways, the pain is going to come forward, right? And that there's processing and moving through that. But what you're doing is you're taking that beautiful gift and then bringing it into your present moment to allow it to serve you in your growth and evolution, which I think is such a beautiful tip for people. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to talk about the signs. I want to talk about, you guys had a conversation around that before. And actually, in part of that, I want you to talk about some of the hard things that you did, either conversations or I saw a video. You can talk about, the hard things that you did during that time, during those, just a couple weeks when Mark got sick, that you did so that you could know what to look for after he was gone. And also maybe you can speak to that. He's not really gone, and you really feel him more now. So that piece, but also the, having some things that you wanted to have once he was gone, that you did the hard thing to have the conversation to say, let's do this now while we have the time, while we have the moment.
Right. And it was such a fine line because we both believe in miracles, and I had had a radical remission of the brain tumor. And so we were really focused on radical remission. I mean, he kept saying, we'll fix this. And I believe he believed that, probably almost to the end, until he started seeing, spirits come that were close to take him and greeting him. But there was so many tough conversations about finances and his business and those kind of things. But one thing that I did in our personal life is, imagine the conversation. Hey, you're probably going to die. Can I paint your arms white and have you hug me in my favorite red love sweatshirt so that I can feel you're hugging me after you die? That was basically a conversation I had, but it wasn't as direct. I kind of couched it in different terms. I showed him a video that I saw on Instagram of a husband and wife making sweatshirts at their 50th wedding anniversary, where they painted both of their arms. But we started with Mark's arms, and I caught it all on video just because I wanted it. And then I filmed an intro and an outro to it, not in his presence, because I didn't want him to hear. But it basically said I wanted to make sure I had something of Mark after his soul leaves his body. And it was just the most beautiful, heart-wrenching video. And now I have a red sweatshirt that was all stained anyway, that never went out of the house. And it's got his two big white hug arms on the back of it. And I will cherish that till the day I die.
Hopefully I'll be wearing it on the day I die.
Things like that, things of, pretty much demanding him to stop taking new business on in his business. It just so many hard conversations. And even talking to him about sending signs from the afterlife. And for that one, I think I approached it with, we can both send each other signs, whichever one of us dies first. We can send signs. So why don't we agree on them? And so we agreed hearts, hummingbirds, and dolphins. And when he was in the hospital for like half a day. And then I got hospice in and got him home. And he was kind of going in and out of consciousness and understanding. And he was sitting on the edge of the bed, impatient because he wanted to go home. And I said, what are our signs? And he would say hearts, hummingbirds, and he would forget the third one. So I'd tell him dolphins. And then a little bit while later, because
darn it, I wanted him to remember. I would ask him again and he would just say dolphins. And then okay, hearts, hummingbirds, dolphins. And what's so amazing is within 2 hours after his beautiful soul left his body, I'm walking out on the beach. The morticians had just come. They had just taken him away. So it was about 15 minutes after that. I walked out on the beach. I took about 10, 15 steps and I looked down and there was a heart-shaped shell. And I thought, damn, you're fast, Mr. Miller. And then the next day, it was dolphins. I was walking over on the ocean side and saw dolphins for the first time in about 4 months. And then the third day, I was driving with my niece and in a part of town that I don't normally go to. And then also driving with my friend Jane the day before the same day. And we saw 2 different signs in town that had the hummingbird on it. One was a juice shop and one was a restaurant. And I was just like, wow, you're good. You're really good. And it's just that reassurance that we may be gone in the physical form, but we're never gone on a soul level. And it's like you said, I feel him more moments of the day now than I did when we were both on a normal day, busy at work, because I can just call him in and he's here. But there were other signs that have actually just amazed me. And I don't know how many of these I've told you, but he had a life insurance policy and I got the life insurance check. And the zip code of the life insurance company printed on the check, the first 3 digits were 617. Our anniversary is 617. And I was like, whoa, what are the chances? Also, his last month that he was alive, in our mortgage balance were the numbers right in order, 617. Again, it just, you can't fabricate this. You can't force this to be this way. And then 17 has always been my angel number, the spiritual number that's telling me I'm on the right path. Keep going. You got it, girl. And his celebration of life, we had a budget of $25,000 and my niece brought me over the bill at the end of the night and asked me to sign it. And I looked down and it was $17,800. And it's like a couple more rounds of drinks. We had 200 people there. Like how? And thank you, sweetie. And by the way, how proud of you. I came in under budget. I don't know how that happened either. But it's all of these signs that if we just look for and see and feel and embrace, these signs make me like, I will never be angry because it's so perfectly, divinely orchestrated. It blows my mind. It really does.
Don Javier always says, there are no coincidences. Nothing is a coincidence. And the difference between a person who is seeing those signs versus not is presence. Mm-hmm. And you have been so present through this that you're able to see those beautiful signs and also feel that Mark is there sending them to you, that Mark is with you, just as much as he was when he was physical form. It's just now that he's, left this body. But again, like you said before, is that you guys have done this before, and you'll be together again. And I want to talk about your own mortality and how going through this experience has impacted that, or if you had any fear around your own mortality and, with the cancer and all of that. Has this changed that for you?
100%. I remember shortly after Mark died and our niece and nephew were here. They've been phenomenal. Shout out to Nick and Lexi. They were here. They've been helping me throughout the whole process. Nick flew home from Greece. He got home before Mark passed, and Lexi had been here for, 10 days before that. And they're both just helping me with everything right now. And I remember after Mark passed, my first thought was, oh shit, we should have had kids. Because I suddenly felt like I was all alone. And Nick and Lexi both said, we're family. We're family. Like, that was the first thing, like, oh my gosh, who's going to take care of me now that I'm all alone? But once I got over that, and so much love being sent out to Nick and Lexi, like, they're just amazing human beings. But when I was diagnosed, my whole purpose in making the massive changes that I made in my life, completely massive changes, was to live. And I mentioned, for me, dying wasn't an option. There was no way that Mark was going to lose me after losing his identical twin. And you know me, I love my life. I love what I do. I love myself. Like, I have a really good, fun life, even now. But my main purpose in living was so that Mark wouldn't go through this. And so now I look at the active cancer that's in my body. I can feel that the breast bump has gotten bigger in the last couple months. And I look at that and I'm so at peace with it for several reasons. Number one, everything happens with divine timing and perfection. So I feel like if I'm meant to live another 30 years, it's just going to happen. I'm going to keep taking care of myself. And if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. If there's supposed to be another radical remission, it's going to happen. If there's a treatment that I'm supposed to have, it's going to be come into our collective awareness, yours, mine, all of that. And if the cancer is meant to accelerate and take me out sooner rather than later, then that's going to happen. And I'm not worried about any of those timelines or dates. I'm just going to live my life and have as much fun as possible, hoping I'm here for many more decades so that I can have a bigger impact. But I have such a deep peace around the cancer that I never knew was possible. It's like I'm completely detached from the ultimate outcome of the cancer, which is unbelievable for me to even say.
Yeah, and that really has come since Mark's transition. Yeah. I think that the thing that I've seen from you is just this total surrender and peace to whatever is. And you said that to me that day that when Mark transitioned, we were sitting in your house and you were like, what's this going to do to my tumor? Like, what is the grief? What is, and then very quickly, you were back in, coaching again with my people, and you had this piece that it happened really fast where you made that shift from, gosh, this could be, if cancer is related to emotions and trauma and grief, then gosh, this is a big one and this could have an impact on my body, to, you know what? It's going to be okay. Yeah. And everything is exactly, and also the things that you've said about the divine timing, and maybe actually, can you speak to that? Why you think that Mark's timing was perfect? I know you sent me something about that. Can you explain why you think that that was divine timing and that everything happened exactly when it was supposed to?
Yeah, I thought he was going to pass on June 24th. In fact, you and I both had that number come up into our head separately, and we had shared it. And he transitioned on the 23rd, which is kind of humorous because for Mark to be on time, that means he's late. So he went a day early. But what was most remarkable to me is that his time of death was 5:54. And the angel number 555 is all about transformation and change. And so my first minute on this planet without him by my side was 555. And that was not lost on me. As soon as the doctor called the time of death at 5:54, I was like, whoa. And it wasn't that he left at 5:55. It was that I am here physically alone at 5:55. And, just all the spiritual meaning within that. And, even going back to the number 17, Mark's birthday was 3/14. What does 3 plus 14 equal? 17. Mark's full name had 17 letters in it. Mark lived through 17 leap years. I just discovered that the other day. I was like, well, okay, so if my full name has 18 letters and I get to live through 18 leap years, how old will that make me? And no, I don't think that's some magical death prediction theory, but I just have to ask ChatGPT that one. But it's just everything. There's just so many signs. And so that brings me so much peace. And even just the day before Mark transitioned, he was saying that it was crowded. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, I'm like, well, who do you want me to send home? Because there were some people in our house, his niece, his nephew, my best friend, Mike's wife, Terry, was here. And I'm like, who do you want me to send home? And he said, none of them. And then he said it again, it's crowded. And what I didn't understand until after, and also because he was doing this, he was just reaching. What I learned after is many people do that prior to transitioning. They're saying it's crowded because they're seeing all their ancestors, all their loved ones, all their spirits, all the guides that are all coming there to greet them. And this movement is a movement that comes from reaching out to grab their hands. And just seeing all of that, like how beautiful, in the sadness, of course, how beautiful that was. I'm not scared to die. Like I saw how at peace he was. And what a gift that he gave me for me to see that. And I'm just so honored that I got to walk him to the final threshold. Like what a gift he gave me to die first and let me give him that final gift of peace and love and joy and the comfort of his own home. And he always said when he got home, practically every single day, I love being home. And I got to walk him home.
It's so beautiful, Christie. Well, I think on that note, I'd like to close this interview and just say that I'm so grateful to you. One, as just a friend to witness, to bear witness to you and to your strength and your transformation. I mean, honestly, you have just completely transformed, even in the time that I've known you. And I know that it started before we connected in the fall of 2023, but also for my clients. You coach my clients and you're a great coach, right? So like your coaching is incredible, but to have them witness you going through this and moving through this in the way that you have, it changes them. Something inside shifts when you hear someone like yourself, not afraid of the tears, not afraid to show up and be like, you know what? Tears are part of it. And I'm going to cry and I'm probably going to laugh and maybe I'm going to snort and, snot on myself and who knows what's going to happen here. But you know what? This is real. And this is what it's like. And this is life. And You have so beautifully exemplified in this episode what I talk about when I talk about healing versus eradicating disease. And of course, I want everyone's disease to be eradicated. But what I want more than anything is for people to heal on a deep level. And what you've just shown us is that through this loss that you've experienced, you're healing, you're finding the peace, you're finding the gratitude, you're finding the well-being within yourself despite what happens, that no matter what happens, we have that choice. And it is a choice. And you not only have made that choice, you make that choice every moment. And it's a beautiful gift to me, to my clients, and to all of the listeners. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you. I just want to add something to what you said, that it is a choice, but it starts with giving ourselves permission to make that choice. And permission is the most powerful thing that we can give ourselves to heal. Instead of just staying in the doom and gloom, permission granted, it makes all the difference in our journey.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Christie. And please share your Instagram handle again and where people can find you.
Sure. It is at Coach Christie Miller, and it's CHRISTIE Miller. And, currently there's a lot of posts on grief and the loss of my husband. But really what I'm there for is conscious change and helping everyone create a life so good it feels like magic, even during the dark times, even during the tough times.
I love it. Thanks so much, Christie. I look forward to the next time we talk.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Please enjoy a previous episode of Born to Heal. And if you found value in our conversation, please subscribe and share with someone who might benefit. Have questions? Drop them in the YouTube comments or message me on Instagram. Links are in the episode description. Remember, just like me, you were born to heal.